Hi, this is Brett Shelton from Corning, New York, and I'll be kicking off this week's rundown with my experience at the Sproul 10K. This race, put on by Craig Fleming and the rest of the PA Trail Dogs, starts and ends at the West Clinton Sportsman's Club in Heiner, Pennsylvania. This is an up and down course. It starts with about a 3/4 mile flat run on single track along a nice creek bed, and then we go over a little rise, back down across a bridge, and then we climb, and we climb, and we climb for a little bit more. It's about a little bit more than 2 miles worth of climbing. Along the way, it's a nice double track climb, great for passing, and it has a couple of switchbacks in it to get you up to the top. It takes you through, once you're up top, you go through a couple large rocks, which are really pretty cool. And then you hit the top aid station at the halfway point, at which point you go a little bit more flat along the top, and then you go down and down and down some more, roughly 2.5 miles, maybe a little bit more, on some nice single track that is, you can just absolutely fly down. That's really, it's a fun race, it's a fun course. Once you get down to the bottom, you have a switchback, couple short switchbacks, and you go over a bridge, and then you have a little kicker of a climb that when your legs are tired from all that downhill, you gotta climb up. It's short, it's a couple yards, but it's still enough, and then you go about another 150 yards to the finish. So it's all in all, it's a fun race. It was a little bit warm. We had 316 finishers this year, and it was really, really a good race. As for my personal race, it went okay for my level of fitness. I thought I climbed well. I started a little bit too far back in the pack, and that I had to push a little bit harder to move up. But all in all, it was a good day. It was really fun coming down the downhill. I just loved that single track. And so it was really good. And the next day was a little longer, so seeing the kids on part of the course was really neat, and seeing them work up the small little hill before they turned to go down was really cool as well. So great shout out to Craig and his crew for putting on an awesome race. And so now I'm going to kick it back over to Ian, and he's going to talk about other events to recap with results and voices, including more on Sproul and other upcoming events. Take it away, Ian.
All right, Brett, thanks so much for the intro to this week's Trails Collective weekly rundown of Northeast Trail Running, week ending, where are we? June 25th, 2021. So Brett has been a mainstay in my community, making the rounds in particularly a good number of the Pennsylvania races, maybe some down into Virginia over the years, some up here into New York, and has done a also integral piece of working with a youth running program, the SOAR running club out of the Elmira Corning area of New York. So Brett, thanks so much, and nice work on your race this past weekend. All right, so as Brett had alluded to, this week we will get in a little bit to the UltraSignUp Hotlist, a few events that are about to cap out. So last call on entering now. Registration's opening in this next week. Some FKTs of the this prior week, one of which may hold or may stand as going down as my FKT of 2021 vote. A really amazing effort. We'll have some of the mention of results of races that ran this past weekend with at least a handful of voices coming out of those events. So pretty full and busy episode, and let's just get into it. All right, let's get into the UltraSignUp Hotlist. The Run Amok 50K in Brownsville, Vermont, one we've been announcing for a while, is still getting close, set for October 17th. It's still holding at 98% full at the moment for the Sunday race. Finger Lakes 50's 50 mile, a classic, one of the older races in our region, running July 3rd in Hector, New York. The 25K, 50K have been full for a bit, but the 50 mile has 2 spots remaining as of today, filming on Wednesday the 23rd. And the Mozo Double Up, prior version known as the Mount Mansfield or the Mansfield Double Up, slated for July 25th. It's one that's been on my bucket list for the past couple of years. It is 92% full with only 5 slots still available. So get on that pretty sweet looking event while you still can. Registration's opening this next week. The Green Mile by North Park Trail Runners. It's a loop challenge running September 18th in North Park, PA. Registration opens June 26th. And the Stone Cat 50, another classic in our region, slated for November 6th in Ipswich, Mass, opens on June 29th. Let's see. On the FKT front, there was one in PA and then a number coming out of New York this past week. Let's see, the one in PA. Lauren Sensi, 2 hours, 38 minutes for the 14.6 mile Ironstone Loop in the beautiful Rothrock State Forest. Good to see Rothrock as an event come back this year as well. In New York, Justin Snare, 3 hours, 16 minutes for the Fred J. Cusimano West Side Overland Trail outside of Erie. It's been getting chipped away at over the past year, so nice work, Justin, for lowering that a bit more. And then the mountains were where the bulk of the FKTs this past week, at least FKTs that were reported, came out of between the Catskills and the Adirondacks. Angela Legg, 1 hour, 40 minutes to pick off a pair of Catskill 3,500 foot peaks, Bear Pen and Vly. Kathrine Spector, solid, 3 hour, 21 minutes for the Blackhead Range. She lowers Kelly's McDonald's opening mark from a year ago by 23 minutes. Nice work, Kathrine. A friend, Jay Whitbourne, 10 hours, 41 minutes for the most beautiful Giant to Dix Traverse. He's covered 26 Burley miles, 10,000 feet of gain, and particularly in that Dix range, just some wonderful exposure. Actually, throughout that, that would be one for those who are looking for just beautiful FKT routes in the Adirondacks or anywhere in our region. The Giant Dix Traverse would be one to pick off. Jay lowered the prior 2019 mark, I think it was by Ryan Thorpe and maybe Devang, by a bit under 2 hours. So great job, Jay. And queuing us into your day, man himself, Jay, let us know what that route was all about. And then from my vantage point, probably one of the biggest FKTs on my book this year and may just hold, Jack Kuenzle. 4 hours, 45 minutes for the Adirondack Great Range Traverse. At a bit over 20 miles with around 10,000 feet of gain, Great Range Traverse is another iconic stretch, tying in some of the Adirondacks' highest and most beautiful peaks. Both flowing and rugged, unrunnable stretches. This is one I ran with some friends a number of years ago. Probably took twice as long as Jack went through it, but it was absolutely beautiful. It is also one that has seen some of the toughest and fastest runners in the country dueling to lower the fastest time or mark on this route. It was established by my good friend and Keene's own Jan Welford, the range in his relative backyard. For a time, he owned the Adirondack 46 record. He still, to this day, guides up there and knows it as well as anybody, if not better. In 2009, he established the FKT of 6 hours and 40 minutes. It was lowered in the years that followed by my teammate and friend Ben Nephew, and then dueling for a number of years after that was OCR world champ, also now lives in Keene or Keene Valley, Ryan Atkins, an incredible athlete, going back and forth, I think a couple times with another of one of the best, basically, distance mountain runners in the country, Lee Berube, out of New York. And most recently, Aaron Newell, lowered it to a mark of 5 hours, 3 minutes. Though Aaron's mark is went down as a supported mark, as a friend joined him for a part of it. Really, in terms of the support to be got out there. So that's it. So he's in the supported mark. But really, when I look at that effort and knowing Aaron, it was really an unsupported effort there. So if I'm really comparing apples to apples on the effort and kind of roll him in as 5:03 being one of the most recent and fastest to date, to have Jack come out and not only lower his mark, but cleave the biggest chunk off since I think Ben lowered Jan's initial time in 2010 is really pretty phenomenal. So there's a lot of year left, but I think this is, I don't know, it's a truly incredible effort knowing who's come before Jack on that route. So here to weigh in on that route and day, Jack Kuenzle.
Hey, what's up guys? Jack Kuenzle here talking about my FKT on the Great Range Traverse. So if you aren't familiar with the Great Range Traverse, it's a route up in the Adirondacks. It's about 22 miles and about 10,000 feet of gain. Essentially, it's just a U. It goes out, summits 11 peaks along in the High Peaks Wilderness, finishing the climbing portion on Marcy, and then from Marcy, it's essentially a downhill all the way back to the Garden Trailhead, which is about a mile west of where you start at the Roostercombe Trailhead. So I picked this route. I think it's one of the highest profile routes in the Northeast, next to the Presidential Traverse. There's a fair amount of scrambling on the route. I don't think most of it would really be considered runnable. There's some kind of dangerous exposed sections coming down Gothics and Saddleback, two of the peaks up there. And then there's also a bunch of very bouldery sections, especially going up and down Haystack and up and down Marcy, that are pretty unpleasant. It could get kind of nasty if you fell into it. So a lot of the guys who have been trading the record are locals up there. So I knew I had to get up and get a lot of experience on the route if I was going to try and compete, both to learn the route and just kind of learn how to run in the Adirondacks, run on kind of the slab rock up there and everything, and a little bit of mud. So I went up there 3 weeks ago, or I guess, about 3 weeks ago, and ran the Great Range Traverse 3 times in a row, or 3 days in a row. I time trialed the last hour and 15. I took 2 days. One day I kind of hiked about half of it with my dad, and then the second one I time trialed like the first hour and 15 of the route from Roostercombe Trailhead to Wolfjaw Notch. And then I went through and just kind of practiced some other sections. And then I ran the Great Range Traverse, so I guess 3 more days. So about 6 times total. I mean, and I tacked on a couple extra peaks. And then, so I'm down in Virginia. So took 2 weeks back down here, and then drove up. Did a fair amount of heat training to get ready for it. The day I actually went for it, I was a little concerned about the weather driving all the way up from Virginia, but it ended up being okay. It was about 80 down in the valley, about mid 60s up on top. So it was decent. I started at about 5:15 a.m. To avoid some of the heat. One thing I noticed while I was practicing it was the route absolutely had to be done in the dry, because some of those, every rock gets more slick, and it just slows you down a little bit, and it's a lot more mentally straining, just kind of waiting for your feet to kind of pop out from underneath you on the wet rocks. So, but the conditions ended up being absolutely perfect. It was super dry out there, just a tiny bit of mud. One thing about the route that's maybe slightly unique is water is only available about 2 hours and 45 minutes in. Once you get past Basin, you're at kind of the base of Haystack. There's some water there, and there's some water past Marcy also, but still, for that first 2:45, there's no water. So I started with 1.5 liters of water, 1 scoop of sugar mix in one of my flasks, and then about 1,200 calories in gels. And by the end of the effort, I had consumed about 1,000 calories. So a couple left over. The only issues I had in the actual effort was at Wolfjaw Notch coming down, lower Wolfjaw, my vest tore in the back, and a couple gels and one of my flasks fell out, but I ended up just shifting everything to the front. The vest just ripped open. So that's pretty much everything. I was able to take off, so my final time was 4 hours and 45 minutes. Previous record was 5:03, so I'm pretty happy with it. Taking off 18 minutes. That's pretty much it.
All right, so congrats, Jack. Again, that's pretty amazing, and looking forward to staying connected with you and just seeing really what comes next for you. All right, some results of this past weekend. Actually, let's get in one that was won 2 weekends ago. Their clips just came in a little bit late. Alex P. and the crew at Athletics Equation put on the OSS CIA 50-mile night run. It was on the 12th in Triangle, Virginia. Although not a huge field, it's been growing steadily. This year nearly doubled from their prior high in 2019. They have 72 finishers. And here to cue us into the event overview is Alex P. himself. Take it, Alex.
Hey, Trails Collective, how's it going? Alex Papadopoulos back at you again with another race update. This time our trail race was the OSS CIA 50-mile night run. We created this race 11 years ago with Alex Hall, and it is to honor the folks from World War II of the OSS, which is the Office of Strategic Services, the predecessor agency to the CIA for their covert operations during World War II, which saved a number of lives and helped the outcome of the war in the favor of the Allies. That said, back to the race. We had a great showing. We had over 145 registrants sign up for the race. We had 104 toe the line. What makes this race unique is that it is in the middle of June in Virginia. You always have high temperatures, high humidity, and always ensures a low finishing rate. Historically, through the first 10 years of this run, we have a 50% finishing rate. This year, we had some cooler weather. The humidity was still high. That played in the runner's favor, and we had a finishing rate of 71%. Out of the 104 starters, we had 72 finishers. Incredible. Leading the pack was new to the ultra running scene, Maxim Petrenko. He broke 9 hours in a time of 8 hours, 59 minutes, and 41 seconds to be first overall. Leading the women and sixth overall was Dagmar Paul with a incredibly strong time of 10 hours, 28 minutes and 56 seconds. In addition to taking this victory, this is also her second athletic equation victory this year as she took the Groundhog Day division in our ICA. Special note in this event goes to Michael Berg. He's a young man, 23 years old, and he came out there. He got lost, for starters, which will happen in night runs. And secondly, his longest training run was a half marathon. His longest race was a 5K. And much like a lot of us in the trail community, he just dove in head first and crushed the race. He finished, and it was his first ultra marathon. So congratulations, Michael. Congratulations to all the finishers. Following on with this, you'll have a short report from Brian Compagnone and Heather Ficke, both finishers of the race again this year. And finally, a strong thank you goes out, and very thankful remarks go to our volunteers. This race is unique in that it is an overnight trail run. So the volunteer commitment goes throughout the night. It's never short. It's much like volunteering for a 100-miler where you're there overnight. So special thanks goes to all the volunteers who made this race a success, to all the finishers, and we look forward to seeing all of y'all out there in 2022 at this event. Now I'll pass it off to Brian and Heather for their remarks on the race. Take care and see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
And then also digging a bit deeper on details, fourth place finisher Brian Compagnone. Probably mispronounced that. Clip's not in yet, so I can't verify. Hearing you maybe say your own name, so apologize if I butchered it. But Brian, dig us in further to OSS.
Hey Trails Collective, this is Brian Compagnone from Arlington, Virginia, and I was asked to give a race recap of the OSS CIA 50 miler that took place on June 12th. So this is a race that takes place in Triangle, Virginia, in Prince William's Forest, which is about a 45-minute drive south of Washington, D.C. So it's, again, pretty local for me. It's a terrific race, just a really, really great course. It got the opportunity to, thankfully train on the course itself 3 or 4 times, which is a huge plus. Plus it being a 26-mile loop, I was able to cover all of the race in a pretty short amount of time. So onto the race itself. Like I said, it is a 26-mile loop. You run twice, obviously. So you get about my watch would say about 53 miles. So expect that at the end when you're kind of hurting there. But the first 8-ish miles of that course, so it kind of runs along the creek, Quantico Creek, and it's a little windy. It's probably the slower part of the course of the race, where you'll encounter some exposed rock, some roots, some undulation, which I think is a good thing considering this race takes place in mid-June in Virginia, so you'll generally encounter pretty high temperatures and pretty excessive humidity. So it kind of gets you in a nice sort of like I said, slowish pace to kind of begin with, to conserve your energy for what's to come. So that portion goes on for about 8 miles. That takes you to the first water stop, and only water stop, so you got to plan accordingly. And after that first water stop, after about 2 or 3 miles, you come to the first major aid station where you have a huge spread, a huge buffet. You also have your drop bag there. So, and right after that aid station, you'll have about a 2-mile loop that brings you back to the same aid station. So the runner has kind of is at a decision point there whether or not they want to spend more time on the front or back end of that main aid station. So right after that, it's called the North section, North Valley section. It's a little bit faster to start with. It's got a little bit more of a buffed out trail, a little bit more of a decline to it. For the first, a couple miles, maybe 3 or 4 miles, and then on this side you'll hit fire road for the first time. So you'll be able to pick up a little speed, get into a groove. So if you need to make up a little time, that's kind of the place to do it. And then for the final, maybe I would say 4-ish miles of that first loop, you're going to encounter kind of the same terrain you did on the front side, which is, like I said, a little bit more technical, a lot of exposed route. So you're going to have to kind of navigate that as the sun goes down, because considering this race does start at 6 p.m., so you're gonna run most of that at night. So I thankfully I got to maybe 20-ish miles or so, maybe just shy of that. Actually, no, I take that back. Maybe 15 or 16 miles of daylight that I took advantage of before the sun went down. And so you got that, which is a major challenge on sort of the other side and all the technicality of it. So it's just inevitably going to be slower for you, and you're better off just taking it slightly conservative, as not to invite injury or whatnot. But so I mean, again, it's a great race. It is it's a pretty unique challenge in a sense that it's a loop. It's got it starts at 6 p.m. It's got kind of a little bit of everything on the trail. You don't have major climbs, you don't have major descents, but you've got just undulation that'll kind of beat you up if you're not careful. And all in all, I mean, highly recommended if you're ever in this area, either for a full-fledged race or want something to, or want an event to train, especially at night, to get your kind of lighting dialed in. So, appreciate Alex, the race director, his crew at Athletic Equation. They were great. Volunteers were unbelievable. Really made the race experience top notch, and plus, this being a local race for me, it was great seeing the Virginia Happy Trails Running Club volunteers there as well. Kind of made the experience a little less painful. So, thanks, Ian, for letting me unload my thoughts here, and hope to see everyone out there soon. Take care.
And then also, women's finisher, or finisher who happens to be a woman, Heather Ficke, your day at OSSCIA.
Hey everyone, thanks Alex for the opportunity to be able to share my experience. So yeah, this race is amazing, and definitely could not have done it without the volunteers. Thank you so much for all of the time that you spent out there in the early morning and late night. That's why, this course, I ran it in 2018, finished as well. And it was such a fun combination of trails and vertical all combined in one. And I only have one piece of advice. If you smell cucumber salad, that's right, cucumber salad, it just means look out for snakes. no stress. Don't worry about it. I chose this race for particular reasons, and one and first and foremost is the race director. He is very approachable and available to answer any questions, and just wants to make sure everyone has a good race, whatever the reasons you're out there for. And the course is challenging. It's one of the few night races that I know of. It's mentally challenging to start at night when you're tired and you're not fresh in the morning. It's just different. Also, the history of the race is very unique, and we get to run where the members of the OSS trained at night, and it's a fun way to simulate their type of training. I wanted to run it one more time before I left the East Coast, and so that's why I ran it again this year. And it's just a great race. It's well marked, and everyone has a good time. So good luck out there.
All right, a number went down in Pennsylvania. One was the Ghost Town Trail Challenge, 12K, 25K, 50K in Blairsville, PA, part of the Cambria County Trail Series of events. They follow, interestingly, the path of the Johnstown flood and some of the historic markers and buildings and structures involved in that flood. Of 64 12K finishers, Joseph McKelvey and Olivia Kudlowick took the men's and women's wins. Cool fact, both are only 15 years old. Nice work on that. Of 77 in the 25K, Ryan Staskowski and Madeline Berry took the wins. And of 114 in the marquee 50K event, Colin Turkanik and Mary Beth Strickler took the wins. So great job to all out there. One that I don't know if it was on my radar prior, but the Lost Turkey Trail Races, half marathon, 50K, 50 mile, went down in Blue Knob. I think it at least ended in Blue Knob, PA. They're beautiful point-to-point routes running the southern Allegheny front to the summit of Blue Knob. There's several, or at least a few races that run there. Variable terrain, honest elevation. Looks like a truly beautiful course and great place for events. Multiple-year finisher Carl Leer checked in with the rundown of the half course in pretty detailed fashion. So Carl, take us through the specifics.
Hi, I'm Carl Leer, and I'm here to talk about the Lost Turkey Trail races that took place Saturday, June 19th at Blue Knob State Park, which also has the second highest elevation in Pennsylvania. They have a 50-mile, 50K, and a half marathon option. This is my third time doing the half marathon. It starts and ends at Chapels Field. You take off running through Chapels Field into Chapels Field Trail. It's a nice mile section of dual lane along the side of the mountain where you connect up to the Lost Turkey Trail. It's about a mile down, nice single lane trail, very fast, very fun to run. Once you get to the bottom of that, it gets a little steeper, but still runnable, still fun. You will cross Monuments Road. Once you cross Monuments Road, it's about a mile and a half section of flat that you'll run on. You've got 4 creek crossings down there. The first 2 are small creeks. The third one, you will get your feet wet. The fourth one, you have the option to continue to get your feet wet or do a cable crossing. I chose to continue to get my feet wet. You also are merging with the 50 mile and 50K runners at Bob's Creek down there. Once you go across Bob's Creek for the half marathon, it's your first hill climb. It's probably about a half mile, 3/4 mile long. First part's not too bad, but then it quickly gets steep and is a pretty good climb. But once you get to the top of that hill, the back side of it is a 2-mile section that's pretty technical. It's got a lot of rocks. You're kind of going on a small creek. You're zigzagging back and forth. A couple little muddy sections back here. It's like I said, a lot of rocks. It's pretty technical. You have to really pay attention to where you're running. You will, once you get closer to the bottom of that, you will actually run past the lost children of the Alleghenies Monument, which you can look that up if you want. It's a very interesting story about some boys that got lost. After you pass the monument, you're running on the Lost Children of the Alleghenies trail, which is a very wide trail, very runnable, out to Monuments Road, where we have there was an aid station. At that point, you run down Monuments Road and you make a left back up that mile section of Lost Turkey that you came down, which it's not as fun going up as it was coming down. Once you get to the top of that, you will hit another aid station at the Chapels Field Campground. That section turns into a flatter, runnable section for about another mile, I would say. Very nice, grassy, dual lane trail. Once you get through that, you will start your next big climb, which is another mile up to Tower Road. That climb is a pretty steep section of the trail, not runnable as far as I'm concerned. Once you get to the top of that, you are basically at the top of Blue Knob, and you will be running up there for, I believe, 3 or 4 miles. There's another aid station up there. There's a nice scenic overlook, a lot more rocks up on top. There's actually some very big rocks that are fun to run on, kind of some steps up there that you run across. And once you hit about mile 11, you will come down again, another probably a half a mile, pretty steep downhill trail. And then you hit the last 2 mile section, I'd say, that's flat to the finish. The first part of that flat, once you come down over the hill, is again pretty technical, lots of rocks, still runnable, but you have to jump around a lot of rocks. When you get out to where there's about a mile left to the finish, it kind of opens up. It's a road. There's a campground back here. It turns into a nice wide grassy section, very runnable, not technical at all. And you finish at Chapels Field. Everything for this race was good. The RDs did a good job. The aid stations were great. The turkey dinner they had afterwards was great. The weather was upper 60s, a little bit of rain at the end, but we were kind of laughing. It was actually cooler than the late COVID version we had last year in November. Everything was good. So I hope to do it again next year. And that's all. Thank you. Bye.
All right. So getting a gist of what the event's all about. Of 28 finishers in the half, Robert Stackhouse and Bree Davis took the overall men's and women's wins. Of 30 in the 50K, Jeff Savage and Meira Tyrell emerged on top, and they both established new course records. And of 38 finishers in the 50 mile, Justin Findley and Marissa Nodal took the top spots, with Justin securing a new course record as well. And we've got 2 clips in here. One from Kathrine Bright, 50 mile finisher.
Hi, I'm Kathrine Bright, and I just completed the Lost Turkey 50 mile trail race. It was a brilliant race put on by race director Jen, and she truly goes out of her way to set her athletes up for success in the race. From making an easy, smooth check-in to answering any questions leading up to the race, and even just making sure everyone's set on race day, although it is a very, very early start. And then at the end, just really being there at the finish line, greeting all the runners in with a big smile and just being joyful for their successes of the day, and knowing that they, laid it all out there on the trail. The course itself is, it's an awesome course. It's a course that, if you want a challenge and kind of a mix of everything and a true test to push yourself outside the comfort zone and give a little bit more and that little extra that you may not have known that was inside, this is the course for you. You start out at 4 a.m. at the trailhead down at, I think it's Gatlin State Park, and it is pitch dark. So you're left, to be guided by your headlamp, and there are a lot of rocks. So it's just really making sure you're awake, making sure your foot mechanics are good to navigate over these ankle biting rocks, And in this year's case, there was a severe thunderstorm that came through the night before and just dropped a ton of rain on the course. So it was just muddy, marshy, and some mud that just was almost up to a foot deep. And the runners all worked together in the beginning, really letting them know, like, hey, marshy area here, ankle biting rock here, to get us off to a great start. And the course, I had read a line from a veteran runner of the course was, this course is a bit deceiving. It's very easy to go out hard and fast in the beginning, but you will pay for it. And that's the case. So in the beginning, there's a lot of areas where you can, in theory, bank time, but it won't do you a favor. There's rolling hills in the beginning, all that single track, like I said, those rocks, gorgeous vistas where you can pop out, take a good look, and see just for miles and miles of that great Pennsylvania landscape of the Allegheny Mountain foothills and beyond. But then when you get to mile 30, that's where the true test becomes. And that's where those intense climbs going up the mountain ridges, just see what you're made of. Then followed by very, very steep descents. They're not a lot of switchbacks. Some of them are you're just coming straight down and really understanding, that strength that you have, and then that mental perseverance to go up yet another intense climb. I made a remark to someone at one of the aid stations at, I think it was just before mile 40, on the way back, because you kind of double back to that same aid station, and he was like, don't worry, it's another 2.5 miles up to your 40 mile. And those were the longest 2.5 miles of my life. Might as well have been about 15 to 20. Because it was just grueling. You're taxing, you're on tired legs, you're trying to work over these rocks, and then we also had the mud factor come in. But those aid stations, all those volunteers had big smiles on their face, endless amounts of energy as you came in, and it was like, whew, gave you that right pickup just to keep pushing yourself down the trail to that finish. The other brilliant aspect about this course is the streams and the creek crossings. Being that it was a really hot, humid day where the air just didn't move, getting your feet in that icy cold mountain water just was perfect. It was what you needed just to, ease those achy feet and keep going. The one other thing that I thought was just brilliant on the course, and it was a lot of fun, was that last climb at mile about 43. It was an intense climb up, but once you got up there, you were like, okay, finish line's in sight, let's go. Let's just see what all I have, lay it all on the line and get to that finish, because the best part about that finish is a huge turkey dinner waiting for you. Because after you've been out on that trail since 4 a.m. in the morning, you just wanted nothing more to sit down and get a good meal in your tummy. So I would highly suggest this race to anyone looking for a nice mental challenge as well as a physical challenge, because it does not disappoint. The volunteers are amazing, and the race director is just very personable and ensures success for all.
And Jennifer Wallace, also a 50-mile finisher.
Hi, my name is Jen Wallace. Thank you, Trail Collective, for having me on. Over the weekend, I ran the Lost Turkey Trail race in Claysburg, Pennsylvania. It was my first ultra, my first 50-mile race. My sister had gotten me into doing it, and I definitely will never forget the experience. The trails were very technical, a lot of really great elevation gain with some pretty gnarly downhills, lots of fantastic Pennsylvania trails, never disappoint with them. Beautiful, beautiful scenery throughout the whole race. The morning was pretty great morning. It started out a little hot and humid, good old Pennsylvania humidity, and then toward the later morning, we had a nice rain shower with some pretty crazy winds. The sun held out for most of the race, which was nice cloudy overcast. We had a really great time. There was a lot of really amazing people that we ran with, got to talk with, some a really fantastic lady from DC, some people from Ohio and around, scattered around Pennsylvania area. Highly recommend this race. It's fantastic. The race director was amazing. The volunteers were outstanding. The aid stations were pretty incredible. They knew what you needed when you needed it. Always there, you know, help you out and everything. Good encouraging word. Everyone cheered everyone in when you came running into the aid stations. Again, like I said, highly recommend it. For my first time, I have nothing more to say of how unbelievable the experience was. There were so many beautiful scenic overlooks with the race, and at the end, the icing on the cake was a nice, delicious hot turkey dinner, which was out of this world. What I have coming up, I have nothing too crazy. I'm doing some local races, some in July. I have actually got a lot planned in September. I have a local race called the Labor Pains in Reading. Other than that, nothing too crazy, just taking it easy and planning my next 50 miler for next year, and maybe one before the year is out.
Both are from Malvern, PA, and I'm guessing training friends there. If not, seems like you should be. And they finished 4th and 7th respectively in the 50-mile distance. So thanks for checking in with us there. All right, another one that went down in PA, a fat-ass style, well, I guess it's kind of a fat-ass style event. Mason-Dixon Longest Day Challenge in PA. This is a trail dog, D-A-W-G, non-event, as they say. Small 25-person max, a low-key club, they call it Trail Party, running between sunrise at Susquehanna State Park in Maryland for the start at 5:38 a.m. to an 8:38 sunset finish at Shanks Mare Store in Long Level, PA. Queuing us into the Mason-Dixon Longest Day, running in her relative backyard.
Hi, I'm Melissa Morland. This weekend I ran the Mason-Dixon Longest Day 100K. The course runs point to point from Havre de Grace, Maryland at the Mill in Susquehanna State Park to the steps of Shanks Mare Outfitters in Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. The course is very technical, quite a few rocky sections, a few short road sections, but mainly trail. There's over 10,000 feet of elevation gain over the course. Part of the challenge is also following the blue blazes without any additional course markings. The course is mainly clearly marked and well maintained by awesome volunteers. This didn't stop me from missing a turn. I lost a few minutes having to backtrack to find my way back onto course. But I'm not known for having a great sense of direction. There are a few options for start times, including even a midnight start. But in order to be considered a challenge finisher, you need to be able to start at sunrise, which on this past Saturday was 5:38 a.m., and finish before sunset, which gives you 15 hours. You are still a 100K finisher if you don't meet that 15-hour challenge, just not the longest day challenge finisher. There were 24 of us that started at sunset hoping to meet the challenge. In the end, 4 of us met the 15 hours, but there were 7 other finishers. It was a very tough day, both hot and humid, and so that took quite a few of the runners out along the way. I did choose the supported option, which allowed for both aid, crew, and pacers. There is an unsupported option, which doesn't allow you to have any crew or pacers, but you can fill up water along the way. There are drop stations along the course, as well as 3 picnic areas where you can get water and food. My husband met me every 5 to 7 miles, handed me a new electrolyte bottle, peanut butter and jelly. I love my peanut butter and jelly on these long runs. And a few times we did have to fill the full bladder because I was drinking a lot of water during this race. But breaking down the run into 5 to 7 mile sections is really helpful. I also had a friend meet me and run the last 23 miles. That includes the most technical section of the trail and the last 10 miles, which is rightfully called the Death March, where you are just up and down rocks and boulders, ledges and rock climbs. So it was really helpful for me, who hates rocks and heights and ledges, to have someone out there with me and know I wasn't alone. Luckily I had gotten through the first 50 miles with plenty of time, knowing that I could take that stretch slowly and still meet the 15-hour cutoff. In the end, I really surprised myself with a 13:21 finish for first place female and second place overall. Living in Maryland, I'm lucky to have these trails, the Mason-Dixon Trail, right in my backyard, but I really do recommend, if you haven't checked it out, come out and try it. See y'all on the trails.
All right, another one that ran in PA from the PA Trail Dogs, DOGS. Can be a little confusing, two close entities there. Sproul 10K and Little Loggers Trail Fest in North Bend, PA. This was the event that Brett opened us with on this week's episode. And another in the vast PA Trail Dogs lineup that offers solid elevation metrics and flowy trail. As with a few other events, day 2 offered the Little Loggers Trail Fest geared toward kids. It's pretty great. And of over 300 finishers, Jeff Ruhl of Danville took the win in 54:02, just under a minute ahead of Tom Knowles. And for the women, Jill Dens continued to crank, making it 3 out of 3 in wins for her. Well, she's only run 3 trail races. She's won all 3 in her budding trail career. So great job to you, Jill. And to take us through the Sproul, overall winner, Jeff Ruhl.
Hey Ian, thanks for including me on the Trails Collective weekly rundown to cover the Sproul 10K this week. My name's Jeff Ruhl. Just to kind of give a brief intro to myself, I've been running trails since college, so around 06, 07 I probably started. At the time I really did some road halves, some road marathons, and then found my way into doing ultra marathons. So I did Higher 50K a couple times, the Mega Transect, Tussey Mountain Back 50 miler, the Damn Fool, which is a marathon. Just kind of doing trail races in PA, some ultras. Didn't really do a lot of the shorter stuff at the time. And then in around 2012, 2013, I took a job out in Portland, Oregon, moved out there. Kept doing ultras, mainly with Go Beyond Racing as a company. They put on a lot of ultras in the Pacific Northwest, so a little plug for them here. I did the Smith Rock 50K, Smith Rock Ascent 50K. There's a 50K, the Trail Factor 50K in Forest Park. Did that a couple times, and the Mount Hood 50 miler. The running in the Pacific Northwest is very, very amazing, as it is here in PA. I mean, I love it. In 2016 I moved back I took a job back here in Pennsylvania, so I was happy to get back into the PA trail scene, which is just really, really taken off. I mean, the races are huge these days. It's awesome. It's such a great community. Really kind of started doing the shorter stuff, so Heiner 25K, the Dam Half, Tie Dot and Half, and Sproul, of course. So to kind of cover the race this past Saturday, first, just a huge shout out to Craig Fleming and Tanya Jacobson of the PA Trail Dogs. That group just does such a great job at all their races. I can't thank them enough for putting on these events. The community's always out in full force, and it's after the past year and a half, it's great to be around everyone again. So to kind of cover the Sproul 10K, for those of you who don't know, Sproul's, it's a little bit longer than a 10K. It's about a 3.5 mile climb to the top of a mountain, and then you come screaming down the other side to the finish. It's not a super technical course, so it's really fast, just a ton of fun. I'm not great at the technical stuff, so this course fits me perfect. So I really, just kind of went into the race, just wanting to run the whole climb. I didn't want to power hike at all. that was my main goal, and luckily I was able to do that. Felt really strong. It was a hot day. I kind of enjoy the heat, so. But yeah, I mean, I felt pretty good. Like I said, the community was just awesome as always. I would have liked to stick around a little bit longer after the race, but I had to get back home for a kid's birthday party. But it, all in all, it was just such a great day, such a fun race, and again, thanks to the PA Trail Dogs and Craig and Tanya for everything they do for the trail community here in Pennsylvania. Ian, I thank you for the time, and I hope to talk to you again soon and see you at a race. Thanks.
And second place female, Meira Minard.
Hi, my name's Meira Minard, and I'm from State College, Pennsylvania, which is kind of the epicenter of the central PA trail running mecca. Our house is in the shadow of Mount Nittany, and I spend as much time as possible running amok up there, as well as in Rothrock, our local state forest, with my trail dogs Bella and Wally, and my Team Nittany trail peeps. I turned trail about 10 years ago, and I haven't looked back or forward really since. I've pretty much only looked down at all the rocks and roots that we have around here in Rocksylvania. My first race was the Dam Half at RB Winter State Park, and it was a total game changer because up until that point I was had only been a roadie, so I absolutely fell in love, and I highly recommend that race, which is actually coming up here at the end of September, and there are plenty of spots still open, so get online and sign up for the Dam Half. So Ian asked me to give a quick rundown of the Sproul 10K that was this past weekend, and this is my take 2 because my take 1 was quite an extended cut. It was a great race. It's a 10K in Sproul State Forest, which is near Lock Haven, and I've done it. This was my 6th time doing it, and it's pretty much a 3-mile climb up, and then a little less than a mile over the top, and then a 3-mile runaway train descent. So it's pretty much a seesaw race. And the trick is to balance the sawing of your hamstrings with the hammering of your quads. Because otherwise the wheels can completely come off on the descent, and you can find yourself in a tangled heap on the side of the mountain, which several of my friends have done. So, and then if you can somehow make it to the bottom intact, there's a nice kind of flat horseshoe curve into the finish. And this year it was especially hot and muggy. There was a bonus amenity at the finish line of a water attendant there holding a garden hose, spraying down anyone who was interested. So I actually got 2 showers. I went back for a second one. So that was a really nice feature. And I guess basically this is definitely one of the most intense 10Ks in PA, especially, and definitely the most intense 10K. And this is Bella. This is my one trail dog, the one that never quits. And I already ran pretty far with her today, and she's still looking for more. So yes, I highly recommend this race. You know, it is quite challenging, but the roller coaster ride is more than worth the price of admission. And the after party, Craig Fleming and his PA Trail Dog crew always put on an awesome spread with great food and great beer and a fun, crazy cast of characters. It's very family reunion style. So if you get a chance to check this one out, I highly recommend it. And I'm going to stop now because otherwise Ian threatened he's going to start playing Meatloaf over my video. But hey, 4:43, I got in under 5, so that's awesome. So hope to see you out there on the trails, guys. Thanks.
All right, so nice work all there in PA. And to those of you who checked in with clips, thanks for taking us through that. And then another one that ran in Virginia, the Eastern Divide 50K, ran in Pembroke with a tweaked or updated course. I think they tweaked maybe the finish location. Of 199 finishers, Michael Zeberkowitz of Asheville took the win in a speedy 3:53, with Caleb Bowen on his heels in 3:57. It's flying. For the women, Peyton Thomas made it a North Carolina sweep for the wins in 4:39. And then here to take us through their day and the Eastern Divide course is Caleb Bowen.
Hey guys, my name is Caleb Bowen, and I had the opportunity to run the Eastern Divide 50K. This race was held in Pembroke, Virginia. Absolutely beautiful course. It was a beautiful day. A little bit about the course. I mean, it starts off there near the Cascade Waterfall Trail, and you start off on a really well manicured trail that goes straight up a mountain, essentially. And you pass the waterfall at mile 2, and you keep going up and up and up, and you eventually get to the top of the mountain, somewhere around 5-6 miles. And then once you get to the top, you're just going up and down these fire roads for a good portion of the distance. These fire roads are great. I mean, they're not technical at all, but there's sections where the whole trail or fire road's covered in puddles. So that's just a fun aspect of it. But you get some beautiful views on these fire roads. You run a lot on those, and there's some mountains out there. Some 1,000-foot climbs and everything. So that's just a fun part of it. And then towards the end of the race, you start climbing down or going down the mountain, and you finish on a 3 or 4 mile downhill into the finish line, which was at Doe Creek Farms. Very beautiful place as well. This race had a little bit of everything. It's great for beginners because it's not too technical, but it's definitely a fast race. I ended up getting second place, and I ran 3:57 for the 50K. The winner ran 3:53, and top 5 were under 4:15. So it was just a very fast, competitive field. Another cool aspect about it is there's the award to the first person to the top of the mountain, which is the first aid station, called King of the Mountain. That is something I went for and ended up getting. It definitely hurt me later on in the race because it took a lot out of me, just running so hard at the beginning. But that first 4.5 miles, you gain almost 2,000 feet elevation. So that was kind of cool to win that, and ultimately getting second was cool. But definitely a great event. I'd recommend it to anybody, and if you're ever in the area during this time, I'd run it. So hope you have a good one, guys.
So outstanding work, Caleb. And the third overall female and top Trails Collective Radius female, Michelle Lowry.
Hello, fellow runners. My name is Michelle Lowry. I am 44 years old, and I live in Blacksburg, Virginia. I have a background in road marathon racing, so I just started trail racing this year. So my perspective is as a trail racing newbie. I just ran my first ultra marathon yesterday, the Eastern Divide, which is 50K, and I got third place. So I'll tell you a little bit about the race. It's a point-to-point 50K with 6,500 feet of gain and 4,500 feet of loss. So that's right, it's a net uphill race. And basically it starts at Cascade Falls in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Southwest Virginia. And it starts with pretty much a 5-mile climb at the beginning, and then it's rolly from there. And it has a lot of runnable fire roads, but also some challenging sections with like hidden rocks and kind of tight trails. So I entered the Eastern Divide Ultramarathon because it was 3 weeks after the Conquer the Cove Marathon. That was my first trail marathon. The Eastern Divide has a new course this year where it finishes at the Doe Creek Farm. The race yesterday ended up being, it was quite a hot day. We ended up with temperatures in the 80s, but there was some wind, which was sometimes headwind going downhill, thankfully. And a lot of the course is covered with shade. So I don't know much about the men's race, but I can tell you a bit about the women's race. The winner's spot amongst the females was cinched up pretty early by the eventual winner, Peyton Thomas. She's 25 years old from North Carolina. I saw her with the lead pack of men on our first out and back to Barney's Wall at about mile 3. And I never saw her again. She looked very strong. She finished quite a bit ahead of the rest of us. At that point, I was in 9th place for the females. And so we continue to climb at about mile 5 after the first climb. I would say the race properly begins at that point. There's a lot of fire road rollers with huge puddles of mud. And I ran with a few ladies between miles 5 and 9. I was in 6th place and we got all muddy. I fell in a puddle. We got scraped with some thorn bushes, and that's just all part of the experience. So I ran behind them. They were going a little bit quicker than I wanted to, but it's nice to have people to run with until we started to hit some uphills. As a road racer, I'm not keen to walk up hills, even though I know that there's a whole efficiency argument, nor do I spend a lot of time at water stations. So I gained some on some of the ladies by saving time that way. And I passed the previous number 3 lady at around mile 21. She was having some cramping issues. At 23 miles, there's a major aid station 5, and we go off of a fire road into the woods. So I had a friend tell me that I was 5 minutes behind the number 2 lady. Her name is Amy Ross Johnson. She's also from North Carolina. And that section, I saw no one most of the time. I did pass a guy, but and it was very slow. There was hidden rocks and grass, and I twisted my ankle a couple times, tripped a couple of times, and had this harrowing feeling that I was just losing it. You know, my wheels were coming off, but I tried to tell myself that every other runner had to run the same trail and we all would need to struggle through that section. So thankfully, we ended up on a road, actual asphalt road, which is my jam as a road racer. And we ended up going downhill miles 28 through 29. I started to clock some sub 7:30 miles, and I all of a sudden could see the number 2 woman. And I ended up being less than a minute away from her as we ended off the road. But unfortunately, she saw me coming up on her, and the last mile and a half was again on the technical, it was like farmland that they had created a trail through. So there was grass and hidden rocks. And she just really went through that section, that last mile and a half, really strong, and beat me by just over 2 minutes. So kudos to her. So next up for me is a few days of rest, and I'll start a 5K training cycle during the summer and do a time trial on the track, and then hopefully train for the Richmond Marathon in November. So shout out to all of you putting in the work and doing amazing things as our racing opportunities open up. And thank you to all my running buddies, past and present.
All right, and where I was this past weekend, wonderful opportunity to plug in on the volunteer front was Many on the Genny. It's an event put on by Eric and Sheila Eagan and the Trails Rock crew. It runs a beautiful loop course circling Letchworth State Park and Gorge in upstate New York. Pretty deep gorge, but connected with a wonderful individual in the regional trail running world, co-RD with his wonderful wife Sheila, Eric Eagan. Here is a short clip with myself and Eric on race day. All right, Eagan.
Yeah, that's me.
Tell me about Many on the Genny.
Oh, Many on the Genny. It's a 40-mile trail run through Letchworth State Park, Mount Morris, New York. It runs from one side of the dam to the other side on the Genesee River.
What's awesome about it?
Oh man, what's awesome about the community is great, but really the course, it's got like 4 different styles of trail. You've got a little bit of road style stuff that's like bird path type things. Then you've got some deep gorge stuff. You've got some single track. You've got some climbing stuff. You got Ron Herkins trying to make me laugh. It's not going to work. And then finally you hit the FLT that just is unrelentless for the last 20 miles.
And it's personal for you.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up coming around here. My wife Sheila grew up coming to this park. We spent weeks and weeks at a time in here together, just hiking and getting to know each other. So yeah, we love it here.
How's the day shaking out?
It's hot, man. It's hot out. There's a lot of DNFs happening. People are coming in sweaty, covered in dirt and mud and sweat, but it's awesome.
And a couple course records on the day?
2 course records, incredible considering the heat, but both the men and the women broke course records today.
And what else you got on your, anything else that Trails Rock's putting on?
Yeah, we got 3 more races this year. So we have the Webster Trail Classic in September. We have a race called Mafamidal, which stands for maybe the first annual, maybe the last. It's an 8-hour race. And then we have the Winter Trail Festival in December.
And where can people, if they want to plug in, help you out with some of the trail work? Did you do quite a bit and give back, and where can they find you?
Yeah, trailsrock.org and look at our trail stewardship page. Everything is on there. Our races are on there, and even our app is on there. Yes, we have an app.
Good job.
And I got some runners coming.
Great event, man.
Hey, thank you. All right, guys. Split the difference, huh?
With a field cap 150 and a bit of carnage as the temps climbed a bit, the event saw 114 finishers. In the mix was Tim Chichester. He established a new course record of 5:42. And so that's cruising. I think to give you some semblance of anchoring to that time, Tim, I believe, is like a 2:15 or 2:18, I think, road marathoner. So I know that doesn't always cross over, but in this case, Tim is quick. So 5:42 for the 40-mile course is where that stands at the moment. And I will cue in here a clip when I was chatting with Tim post-race. All right, so Tim, what do you think that, is it possible that Phil Nesbitt would have taken you out today if he was in the field?
Wait, he wasn't there?
Don't answer that. Hey, Tim, you answer that.
Oh, there he is. I thought you were out there running.
And I wish I had to work.
Okay. Because you were entered, right?
Yeah.
I was running away from you the whole race.
Yeah.
I didn't
even. I almost had you.
Good motivator. That's awesome.
My coach told me that the second place guy dropped out. I was like, oh no, Nesbitt, what happened? Well, because I saw that you've run this every edition, I think, right? Yeah. And then you did the Segunda just the other week. And I was like, man, he's in good shape. I better be careful.
Well, hey, I appreciate that. That's flattering. That's flattering coming from you, so thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe next year if you're up 40.
Oh, I don't know. If they make it 45, I don't know about that.
I just got to keep going longer, Tim, so I can
There you go. Yeah, I'll be dodging you then.
Yeah.
All right. So nice work, Tim. So this was your longest to date. You've done quite a bit of trail stuff, but longest to date?
Yeah. I did 50K unofficially last year during the pandemic, just because there were no races going on. And I've done Mountain Washington, which has a lot of elevation, but it's on a service road. And so I've done some trails, but this was definitely a pretty gnarly trail, especially that second half on the Finger Lakes Trail.
Yeah, and so I mean, you had mentioned you'd run it prior, so you kind of knew what the course layout was like, and you kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah, well, I grew up 2 miles from the entrance to the park, and so pretty much every summer in high school and college, I'd always tramp in the park, but I hadn't gone on to some of those trails, so about 4 weeks out, I was like, okay, I better check these out so I can feel somewhat prepared.
Yep.
Because my training was not what I would have wanted it to be. We just had a kid 7 weeks ago, my baby boy Jack. So that takes priority over running.
And this is number 2.
This is number 2. My daughter Maeve. It was great to have him here cheering me on. That means more to me than anything. So.
And so then at the moment, then, was this a? What are you doing with training? Training racing? What do you got on the horizon? Was this feeding into some sort of other sequence?
I mean, not really. I mean, this was kind of it, and this is a little outside my my wheelhouse because I usually do road marathons or some sort of hill race. I've raced up Bristol. I did a trail marathon 6 years ago, and I learned in that race that you really have to fuel because I was running that trail marathon like a road marathon, and I almost didn't finish. It was brutal. It was brutal.
And so for those that maybe aren't familiar with the course, quick run through versus, I guess, I guess, the course layout, what you were expecting, and like how it went out there.
Yeah, so I mean, I really wanted to have it visualized in my head before the race, what I was going to do. And so it starts at the dam overlook on the Letcher side. And the first half is relatively easy, I would say, compared to the second half. And so I was debating, like, okay, should I save some because I know the second half is brutal, or should I take advantage of the quickness of that part of the course? And, you know, I was like, all right, I guess I'll go somewhere in between, try to be relaxed but fast as I could. And, you know, I was, on some of those sections, I was clipping off 640s. Like, oh man, I should not be running 640s right now. I kept telling myself, this is not a marathon because, you know.
You're a stallion enough where you can do that. What's your marathon speed?
218, but you know, it's very different. It's very, I mean, it did feel easy, but you know
it's coming, but it still feels easy.
Right. Well, I was telling my wife because I mean, after our son Jack was born, I ran 5 miles that week, and then maybe 15, 20 the next week. I barely have run 1 week over 40 miles in 3 months. The most I did was 52 miles a couple weeks ago, and so.
You're well tapered and ready to.
I've been tapering for a while. Yeah, I was holding a strong taper. Yep.
And then the heat was coming on, and there was a long stretch in there. And
yes. Yeah. So for like at the aid station before the last 13 and a half miles, I knew that stretch is brutal because I previewed it last weekend, and so I had my hydration pack on. And I cramped up right before that aid station in my quads, my calves. Like I was having Charlie horses in places I didn't even know existed. And so my mom was at that aid station, and I was like, I don't know, Mom, I feel really sick right now. I'm like cramping up big time. And took a couple salt tablets, ate a pickle, and you know, it breathed some life back into me. And I honestly had to shuffle that last 13 because if I flex my leg a certain way, it instantly sees up, and like, you know, you can't run with your leg like that.
Yeah, and that's, I think a lot of us can relate. I know I've had my times of being on my back, looking up at the sky with my legs seizing, just kind of laughing.
I fell 3 times. I fell 3 times. I, you know, clipped a root, and as soon as I fall, like my body instantly tenses up, and I'm just laying there. I'm like, oh, there's only 2 miles left. I gotta finish.
Here's where Nesbitt comes running over top of
Yeah, I was visualizing that. Man, Nesbitt's coming for me.
And that's different, right? In terms of what you've experienced in the marathon, even at that high level. I mean, you may hit walls, so to speak, or whatever, but it's like that.
Very, very different. I mean, I've hit the wall in the marathon, like, you know, at mile 20. But you only have 6 miles to go, and it's on the road.
Yep.
And even if it's
a deep cadence, right? I mean,
you get, well, that's the whole thing. You get into a rhythm out here. Like you can get into a trail rhythm, but sometimes, like, I actually got in the zone at one point out there today, and you know, I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna like miss a turn or something because it's like tunnel vision. I mean, I feel like you have to kind of do that with an ultra because it's just so long that if you were thinking like, oh, I got 39 miles left.
Really taxing mentally.
Yeah. So I was just thinking to myself, okay, drink is like hydrate, fuel, get to the next aid station, go from there.
Yep.
Because if I was thinking 40 miles to go, I'm like, oh, that's brutal.
So what do you think from here then? I mean, do you have a vision, anything scheduled or planned for the rest of the year, and then kind of focus of your running career, so to speak, roads, trails? What do you think?
Yeah, so I got to talk to my coach, Coach Reef from GVH, but I might do a fall marathon. I'm really interested in going for the world record in the stroller marathon with my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Probably sometime in the next year.
What's that record?
It's 2 hours and 28 minutes. And the guy that has it, he's got like 3 world records in the stroller. But the thing that's interesting about him is his open time is not that much faster than a stroller time. And I feel like if you're a good trail runner, a good mountain runner, it kind of translates to a stroller because you got to have like the strength to push it. It's not just, you know, like a flyweight just zipping across the ground.
Is there a metric on that? Can you use any stroller design?
I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I do have the Thule brand, and that's, you know, it's one of the top brands, and that's what the course record is on right now. Yeah.
So maybe you kind of need to do that to just compare apples to apples. But there was I know Max King was doing some testing with him years ago with Kid Runner out of Bend.
I saw that video of him in the race with the little thing bouncing behind him. Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw that.
That really came to production, whether they're out there, but it seems like that would be one you could hammer.
Yeah, because it's on your belt. It's on your, because you know, with the stroller you got to hold on and you pump with one arm, and we've gone at decent clips and done some distance, but you know, it's hard to like, you know, you got to switch hands and get your form down and things like that. But that was, I did see that video with Max King, and I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. All right, so then maybe in the fall road marathon, any perspective for future trail stuff? Anything kind of on the bucket list or that would seem appealing?
You know, I'm not sure. I definitely want to head back to the mountains. I love the mountains. Coach Reeve took me to Mount Washington, like Ed said, 2012. So next year will be 10 years since I've been there. And so I guess we'll have to see where the championship races are, because I would like to get into a championship race and, you know, see how I can stack up against some of the best in the country.
Yeah, cool. Well, great job today, man.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And on the women's front, Ellie Pell, having finished and won every running so far, she took another and lowered her own course record to 6:37. So here's my race follow-up with Ellie. All right, Ellie, tell me about Minnie on the Genny.
Well, it's so it was canceled last year, and it's my favorite race. So this year, when I knew it was going on after like COVID, I signed up immediately and got waitlisted, so that was fun. But do you want me to tell you about the day, or?
So what? So this is what it's. Not only is it your favorite race, you've done it every year, and not just done it every year, but you've won it every year. Is that the?
Yes, I'm 4 for 4 right now, so hopefully keeping that streak alive. Yeah. Well, I actually texted Eric 2 days ago and was like, "Hey, don't say anything at the start line, because like not feeling super hot." Yeah, I had a couple issues go on this past week, but extra strength Tylenol does wonders.
Yeah, so in terms of issues, just how your foot was feeling, or?
Yeah, so I had to take March and April mostly off to deal with a little bit of stress reaction in my foot, and then I was running pretty well, did a couple short races in Ithaca before I moved, and then this past, about last Wednesday, I could feel something come back. So I haven't really, I immediately stopped running, and it was getting steadily better, and I know that with rest and everything, it will eventually get better. But I went to the orthopedist, got an X-ray, and it is a little bit of it might be a stress reaction. It didn't show up on the, they weren't positive if it was a stress reaction. But Many is my favorite race, and so a lot of praying and a lot of Tylenol.
And so it didn't slow you down very much, either that or the praying worked in terms of lowering your own course record today?
I think it did. I think that's, you know, and I think that I didn't really take advantage of any racing last year. It didn't thrill me as much with all the uncertainty, and I wasn't really like, I also didn't look for it, to be honest. I just considered all of races canceled. So it meant a lot more this year, not being able to do it last year. And I was just so happy to be out there, and I mean, just to see people and go to aid stations and not have to worry about like sanitizing my hands and things like that every couple minutes. So I think it meant a lot more this year. And so I was better able to, I guess, combination of adrenaline, and my foot didn't really hurt that much during the race, only if I like knocked it on something. I know it looks kind of gross, but I think I lucked out, but I'm probably going to pay the piper for the next couple days.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of paying the piper and how your body reacts, you're still in a new schedule, new place, but clearly your fitness is still there versus prior years where you've also been pretty fit.
Yeah, well, March and April, I did take off, but I ellipticaled and biked a lot, and I remember it being like on the elliptical many times, like visualizing the course and just like, you just keep doing it, like you can't like think about many, and it actually got me through all that, and it was, I think, around that time also that I realized like elliptical fitness or biking fitness translates a little bit better to ultras than it would be to try to run a fast 5K. Yep. So I think it worked out pretty well. I'm really hoping that taking, you know, downtime now and being smart, also thankfully with the new job, I don't have to be on my feet all the time, so I can really just sit and let it heal, which is kind of my mantra, and hopefully it'll heal quick. And yeah.
So for those who haven't experienced many yet, what keeps you coming back to many? Sell many?
Yeah, so biggest thing is the environment. Like Eric and Sheila do a really, really great job getting great volunteers. Everything feels very taken care of. And also, I'm a runner, so I ran the whole course, and I like that I can do that, and I don't have to hike. And I think I've gotten lucky. One year was kind of gross and really, really muddy, but I've gotten pretty lucky that most years have been dry enough that I can run. It's really pretty. The first half is pretty fast, so you can run that pretty nicely, and then the second half has got some rollers, and I can see how it might be a little demoralizing at times, but it's just so pretty. And yeah, everything about it, the course, the people, just being able to run the whole thing. That's just what I want to do. I don't want to
kick rocks or roots or.
Yeah. I think I got really lucky today because I really told myself, like, you cannot kick anything with that toe, like you can't. And but I think it also made me be a little bit smarter also. And I mean, I broke my course record, and so I think that my approach of find your go all day pace and just stay there really worked. I didn't try to bomb any of the downhills. I didn't try to, but I also didn't hike any of the uphills. I was able to run the whole thing. So I think, and then my nutrition strategy worked very well. So I think a bunch of those things, I felt pretty confident. And then just like I said, not being able to race last year, everything feels just like a gift.
Yep. So what do you have next? Anything that's planned for the back half of the year here?
Yeah, so goal race of the summer is Twisted Branch, so I have about 2 months. So I have 2 races like in between then, but I'm more than willing to not do those if I can, and I would rather get to Twisted Branch healthy. So right now I'm just saying that I'm Twisted Branch, and we'll see how things go. Yeah.
Right on. Well, great job today.
Thank you.
Congrats on the lowering your own course record. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. And also to put her in perspective, in terms of the 6:37 on that course, Ellie is also a very fast individual. She is also an Olympic trials qualifier in the marathon. I think she's placed 3rd or 4th at JFK, placed pretty well at the North Face San Francisco when it ran. So definitely she is a stud as well. And then one other that was on my radar, not in the Trails Collective geographical coverage area, but one that caught my attention. There was a friend of old that ran up there. I don't believe he finished, but the overall, I think, winner, I haven't seen the official results list yet, but the winner from, I think, Lynchburg, Virginia, Jeremy Peterson.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Peterson. I ran the inaugural Denali 135 race, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about it. I live here in Lynchburg, Virginia, and I run trail races in the local area as well as North Carolina and Georgia mainly. Never run a destination race and never been to Alaska. So when my friend Mike Mitchell asked me if I was interested in the race, I kind of put it off. Then coronavirus canceled the race last year, and so I looked into it a little bit more, used some of my stimulus money, and I was able to sign up for the race last summer, and I put together a crew to go out there. My friends Meira, who was the first to sign up, and then Nick, Jordan, and Alexis all went out. So we had a crew of 5 of us. We went out there a couple of days early. We did some touristy things. We explored a little bit. We kayaked some. We hiked some. We ate a bunch of really good food, and we packed for the race into an RV, and we drove up to the race start. The race started on Sunday the 20th at 4 a.m. Waking up at 3 a.m. and having it still be bright was quite an experience. It was almost as if there was a dimmer switch, and God just turned it down a little bit. Never fully off like we get here in the East Coast, but just dim. It never got to the point during the race where I needed to use my headlamp, or I needed to use blinkers, or was worried about visibility. I could clearly see everything. I wasn't worried about trip hazards or any of that. I was running on a road, the Denali Highway, which was everything it was drawn out to be. There were spectacular mountains. There were incredible overlooks. Views as far as you could see, miles upon miles. Lots of mosquitoes, unfortunately. Not a lot of other wildlife. We did see a couple porcupines, but no moose, no bears for me, Other runners said they saw them, but I didn't see any. So the race started at 4 a.m. on the 20th, and I took off in the lead, and I knew I wanted to race a little bit faster at the beginning because I knew I would slow down. So I took off about 9 to 10 minute pace, and nobody went with me. So I took the lead and ran with that for a couple miles. This guy Brad passed me, a previous Badwater finisher. So I let him set the pace for a little bit, but I hunted him for a little bit and caught him about mile 11, and I kept the lead all the way through. About mile 42, they said I had about a 50-minute lead, and the lead kept growing, and I ended up finishing a preliminary almost about 3 hours ahead of second place for the victory. It was different for me being the hunted. Usually that's a spot reserved for Rachel Spalding, Shannon Howell, Frank Gonzalez, John Anderson, guys like that and ladies like that in the area who are just phenomenally talented runners. I'm usually the one chasing them and hoping they have an off day, or hoping I have a really good day and I keep up with them. So it was just a different experience for me being in the lead and running with that, but it was such a fun experience because the Denali Highway was so gorgeous. And the weather cooperated for us really well. Me and the other 12 runners, 8 of us finished, which was a really good success rate for a first-year ultra. And we all seemed to enjoy ourselves. We were all waddling a little bit at the post-race dinner on Monday, or Tuesday. But we all said we had a good time, and most of us would love to come back or help out with the race in some capacity. Thanks to Sean Tracy for putting it on, especially living in Pennsylvania. I know it was a lot of logistics on his end, but he was very good about keeping the race smaller. Only about 20 runners between both events, so he was able to keep the logistics nice and tight for us. He was in constant communication with us the whole time. I never felt like anything was overwhelming. My crew did a great job helping me out. They were constantly checking on me, making sure I was eating and drinking, making sure that my needs were met, so I want to thank them a lot too. And I can't recommend Denali 135 enough. It's road, so you don't have to worry about trail markings. It never gets dark, so it's easy to stay up. You don't have to worry about sleep that much. And it's runnable. It's less than 10,000 feet of gain for the whole course. It's a great step in between 100 and 200 miles. Coming up next for me is the Burning River 100-mile race, then the infamous Jarman's Invitational Marathon with Jimmy and Danton, and then lastly, I have the Iron Mountain 16-mile trail race on Labor Day weekend in Damascus. Hope to see you guys out at some of those events. Thanks.
All right, so that's what went down in the Northeast trail running scene that was at least on my radar. Feel free to cue in on the comments or Facebook thread of things that I missed that you want to plug. If there are any of you out there that want to also cue in with some intros to the episodes in the future, for sure reach out. It's always good to roll in more voices from the collective into the rundowns. And then we'll close out with the weekend ahead. Races coming up. It's going to be also a pretty full weekend. We've got about 10 of them here, a dozen or something. So we'll just race you through them. Sharp Top 25K, 50K in Maston, PA. The Clear Creek Ultrafest 21 and 34 milers in Siegel, PA. On the Rock 16.7, 33.3, and 50K in York, PA. In New York, going down is the Table Rock Trail Challenge Last One Standing in Jamesville. And then one that I will be in the mix of, hopefully not killing myself, but just enjoying the day out there. The Manitou's Revenge 54-miler, probably the hardest 50 mile in the country, definitely in our region. So for those of you who are headed out to Manitou's, I will see you there in a bit. In Virginia, the Moonlight Rendezvous 5-miler in Kieseltown, Virginia. Night Train 50K and half in Farmville. The Taskenas Creek Marathon in Williamsburg. And in Massachusetts, the Rock and Laurel Trail 5K in Fitchburg, Mass. Connecticut, Forbidden Forest 30-hour in Stratford. And in Vermont, the Catamount 25K, 50K in Stowe. So a busy weekend ahead. For those of you who are catching this episode, if you're running any of those, let me know if you'd be up for a clip for next week. Otherwise, I'll come finding you. And I will catch up with you next week. So hopefully everybody has a great and beautiful weekend of running and adventure ahead. And I will check you next week. See ya!